Alright, these are the basics of a Saboteur Gunslinger. First off, we'll go over, I guess, some general utilities. I always find that having ballistic dampeners is pretty nice, especially when you're in cover. Sweeping gunfire, this is useful, I guess, mostly for PvE content when there are a lot of mobs. Cool under pressure is great as it's a heal while you're in cover. And then reset engagement is nice when we start going over our escape spells. And hotwire defenses, this is also helpful for your defensive cooldowns when we activate defensive screen, which is right here. And then hold up. So this is really great for area of effect attacks, and that happens a lot during bosses. So especially say under Lurker, there's kind of a lot of area effect damage, raid-wide damage across the operation. So that is very useful. You can choose anything else if you like here. A lot of these things are PvP and crowd control though, like this one, kneecapping. Lastly, we have shield reserve, so this helps your scrambling field, and it increases your damage reduction. So as a DPS, you're pretty squishy, so anything that helps with damage reduction is good. And then riot screen also helps with damage reduction as well. So this is kind of an okay utility selection for, I guess, some operations. Definitely not good for PvP though. Okay, so you'll see that I had all my keys bound 1 through 7. I mean, I don't really, I guess the most I reach is 6, and then occasionally 7. And then I have, shift 1 through shift 4. Then I start using the alt button and the control button. Now I know you may like to click on the abilities, but I will say that I used to be a clicker, but now I mainly use the keys while I'm moving around, and it's just so much faster and so much more efficient to do that. So if you want to practice, do whatever key bindings you want, but I definitely recommend you use key bindings as opposed to clicking on the icons. The difference is that if I'm clicking, I would pretty much only be looking at whatever is in my quick bar as opposed to what's going on during the raid. And it is really useful to boost raid awareness when you're able to see the rest of the raid as well. For example, you don't want to stand in purple or red circles, and looking at the rest of the raid around you is really helpful in that regard. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is look at offensive spells. We will go over the AoE, area of effect spells, so let's get in cover. Alright, and I have this on shift 1 and shift 2. So the Gunslinger has some really useful AoE spells. The first one would be Sweeping Gunfire, which you're probably familiar with, and the Freighter Flyby. So if you use these in combination, you can pretty much wipe out any mob, including heroics, in under 10 seconds. So I guess we'll start with the Freighter Flyby because there's a channel to this. So there's a 0.9 second channel, cooldown of 26 seconds, and then Sweeping Gunfire. So if you do this, you can do a whole bunch of damage to this whole area of effect. And then you can keep doing it again until the Freighter Flyby finishes. And you can stack them on top of each other. Okay, so what's most important though is the single target rotation. And you'll see how I have things set up here, 1 through 6. And then I don't do this for the single target. I don't do Sweeping Gunfire. I do use the Freighter Flyby, however. So just going over the abilities, and you can find these when you press P, either in Gunslinger or Smuggler. You would open up with the freighter Flyby. So this is your opener. The reason why you open with it is because it's got a little bit of a delay, so you'll be able to use that before you actually do any damage. So you can channel it before you do any damage, and then after that you would do explosive charge, speed shot, incendiary grenade, and remember this is an area of effect spell, incendiary grenade, so if you were doing keybind you would have to click it twice, as long as you're targeting something, just like this, or like that. I suppose you can double click it if you're clicking, followed by shock charge, and then number 5, this will proc programmed random recurrence on Sabotage, and then you follow that up with a thermal grenade. Now, number 7 here, that's situational. That's when your target is below 30% health, so it's not really part of the rotation. So once again, explosive charge, speed shot. I'm also going to put this in the description. Incendiary grenade, shock charge, sabotage, and thermal grenade. And then after that, your explosive charge will still be on cooldown. So think of this as kind of like the verse, if this were a song, and then we'll go to the chorus, which is kind of a filler. It'd be speed shot, incendiary grenade, which you have to click twice again, and then vital shot and flurry of bolts. And by that time, your explosive charge should be off cooldown. So then you do then you start the whole thing over again. 1 through 6, 2, 3, S3, S4. And that's pretty much the basic rotation. As for the freighter Flyby, you can do that on cooldown if you like. So you'll see as we go through the rotation, you can see when we use that whenever it's on cooldown. So I'm going to start the rotation right now with this. I'm only clicking here, so it's going to be a little slower. Sweeping gunfire as the filler, throw a grenade at them, vital shot, flurry of bolts. Your explosive charge is on cooldown, so you repeat the rotation. We're just going to go through this one more time. 4, sabotage, 6, thermal grenade, and then we do our filler, speed shot, incendiary grenade, vital shot, and flurry of bolts. So you'll notice you can actually do something else in the middle of doing speed shot because it's a channeled ability. So have a look. 2.7 seconds of a channeled ability. Let me activate another power while I'm doing that. I'd say I did that, right? So I did vital shot to interrupt my speed shot. I would really not recommend doing that if you can help it. The reason why is because of this energy management bar. If you just let it fully channel, then you can keep the rhythm of your rotation. If you interrupt it, you'll first of all do less damage. Second of all, you're probably going to drain your energy much more quickly than you otherwise would. And third of all, you're going to mess up the cooldown rhythm of your rotation. So let me show you what not to do if I were to quickly interrupt speed shot with incendiary grenade. So do this, explosive charge, and I'm going to interrupt this. I did that. 4, 5, 6, and then this thing's not ready. I had to wait a second or two in order to activate this. So you can see that if you were to interrupt speed shot with anything, you would probably be in a bad place in terms of your damage output because you would have to pause. Okay, before we go through the rotation again, let's talk about buffs. The first one would be Smuggler's Luck. You should basically use this whenever you are about to do an explosive charge. So anytime you repeat your rotation, or in this case, when you start your rotation, you should hit that. And illegal mods increase range and attack accuracy by 30% and armor penetration by 15 for 10 seconds. This is also useful. I kind of alternate between Smuggler's Luck and illegal mods. So you'll see the first time I go through my rotation, I will be using Smuggler's Luck right before I hit Explosive Charge. And then the second time we go through, Smuggler's Luck will still be on cooldown. So in that case, I'm probably going to hit illegal mods. The other thing is the relics. So relics, you may have some relics that increase a certain ability by X percentage for 30 seconds. It could be alacrity. In this case, I have a power relic. You should definitely put this in your quick bar because it really does make a difference. Like an alacrity relic is really useful. So this is free use. You can use it over and over again. It's just got a cooldown of I don't know, like a minute or something, or 2 minutes, a minute and a half, I think. And then the other thing are stims. This is a critical stim, so increase critical rating by 870 for 15 seconds. You should definitely use these whenever you can, especially when you're in an operation. If you're just cleaning up trash and mobs in the world or in a heroic, it's really, you probably don't want to use up your stim because it costs materials and money to create. But you should definitely be using your relic as much as you can, especially like at a time when there's like an enraged timer on a boss, in which the boss, is gonna one-shot people really soon. You really want to put out as much damage as you can. So let's go through the rotation, clicking kind of as fast as we can. Let me just put this armor reduction module. Not sure if you can actually see the star bar, so I'm not really sure I can find a way to capture it, but that's right here. Alright, so I'm going to open with Freighter Flyby, then I'm going to hit Smuggler's Luck, and then I'm going to start my, my full rotation. 1 through 6, 2, 3, S3, S4. And then I will probably hit Illegal Mods, 1 through 6, 2, 3, S3, S4. I'm also going to hit my relic at the beginning as well, so see how much we can fit in at some point. I'm still kind of working on this rotation, so at some point I'm going to click my stem, and I'll call it out when I do so. Alright, so we will start with the Freighter Flyby. This, the Smuggler's Luck, the relic, hit him with an explosive charge, speed shot, shock charge, sabotage, thermal grenade, speed shot, let it fully channel, double click on Incendiary Grenade, vital shot, Flurry of Bolts, we're on cooldown. I'm going to hit illegal mods, explosive charge, speed shot, Incendiary Grenade, shock charge, sabotage, thermal grenade. Now, Freighter Flyby's on cooldown, so I'm going to double click it, fill her with speed shot, Incendiary Grenade, vital shot, Flurry of Bolts. Alright, so you get the idea. I'm going to actually use my key bindings right now. You'll see that I'm able to activate the abilities a lot faster, and this takes practice. Focus on just experiment with different types of key bindings, how far you can reach. For example, I said I can probably only reach to 6 comfortably with my fingers, but your mileage may vary. So experiment with what kind of setup works best for you, but I would definitely recommend trying to do key binding using these numbers right above the top of your keyboard. So let's do this again, clicking. You'll see the abilities, but you won't see me click. I'm just going to be using my keyboard for this. So Flyby, Smuggler's Luck at this channel. 4, 5, 6, S2, double click on 3, S3, S4, hit the relic, explosive charge, speed shot, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do the freighter flyby S2, then channel the speed shot, double click Incendiary Grenade, Vital Shot, and then Flurry of Bolts. Okay, so that's about the rotation. I will post it in the description of the video. The next thing we're going to talk about is defensive spells. So your built-in defensive spell is obviously to hit cover. You can press F to do that. Hunker down is useful because you can't be controlled while you're doing that. So I have that programmed to control 1. Scrambling field. So it reduces your damage taken by allies, so it has this little green dome, and then defensive screen is a damage absorber. Lastly, there's dodge. It increases your chance to dodge melee and range attacks for 3 seconds. So we're going to do all of these. Hunker down, scrambling field, that green dome you've seen before, defensive screen, and then dodge. So this is pretty much all of your defensive cooldowns going on at once. The problem is that in a lot of fights you won't be able to just stand around in one place. So bear that in mind, because I'm going to get out. All of a sudden I don't have the benefits of hunker down, or if I step out of that green bubble, I will be outside of scrambling field. So the next thing we're going to talk about is your mobility spells. Hightail It is a really great mobility spell for getting into cover, but also, if you're running around a flashpoint and you need to move, catch up with the rest of the group, you could just do Hightail It. Now, it's not as good as Force Speed because of the fact that you have to kind of back away from your cover that you create. So you would have to, hightail it into cover. I'm going to wait for it to cool down, and then back up, and then kind of walk around your cover like that. It's all right. It's not great. Surrender is great because it'll increase your movement. So you see this buff right here: reset engagement, movement speed increased. Definitely great for getting around the map, but I think in terms of playing the game, the best thing about it is it instantly lowers your threat by a moderate amount. So that's useful. And then escape, that's kind of your break control spell. So whenever you're being controlled, force choked or whatever, you hit escape. If you need to escape, or if you need to surrender quite a bit, you can hit Bag of Tricks, and this immediately finishes the cooldowns on surrender and what else? Dodge, defensive screen, and pulse detonator. Sorry, we'll talk about pulse detonator. This is the crowd control line of spells. So first, let's start with distraction. This is your standard interrupt. So let me see if I can interrupt this guy. Okay. Interrupt. So interrupt is current action. Distraction is another one. Probably only works on weak enemies. It does work in PvP though. So that will blind the targets for 8 seconds. And then pulse detonator is kind of your ability that's used to throw people around. You can throw people off of cliffs. However, you can only do it when you're in cover. So boom. And then another good way to stun your targets is below the belt. Okay, yeah, and so this dummy is stunned for 4 seconds. Yes. Okay, and lastly, leg shot, especially if you're being chased by a melee enemy. So with a lightsaber running around, use leg shot, immobilize the target for 5 seconds, and then just, run away. So So that's it. I'm just going to do the rotation one more time so you can see. Again, it's 1 through 6, 2, 3, S3, S4. And then your offensive cooldowns as they are available. Oh, I'm sorry, the last thing, if you ever, for any reason, if you do run out of energy, just hit Cool Head. I have that mapped to Alt-E. 50 energy over 3 seconds, so that is very useful because in the heat of battle you never really have full control over your energy, as you know, people can interrupt your speed shot and you would probably lose your rhythm. But if you hit Cool Head, you can get back on your rhythm and your energy management as well. So let's hit cover. Let's do the flyby. At the relic, speed shot, 3, 4, 5, 6, speed shot, 3, S3, vital shot, Flurry of Bolts, and you're good to go on explosive charge, speed shot, Incendiary Grenade, shock charge. This is on cooldown, so I'm going to hit it. So I'm going to use illegal mods when I start my new rotation. And then I think the next time around I'm going to hit that stem. I'll do the flyby and the stem. Critical stem. Now, as I told you, I'm not really sure if you could see my raid damage star parse. This is around like 5,600, 5,700 right now, which is, you know, not that great, but if I were to start, I know I just did it before doing this video, if I use key bindings, I could probably increase my damage output by at least 1,000, maybe 1,300. It really does make a difference. So, yeah, that's all. Hope you enjoyed it.